Good afternoon, and welcome to the webinar on the power of non-traditional distribution channels. Hi, everyone. My name is Mark Feldman, and I'm a director at the Center for Financial Services Innovation at CFSI. I'm joined by several practitioners who have implemented various types of distribution partnerships aimed at improving financial health for their consumers. First, we have Anne-Lee Lynn Clark, Financial Capability and Learning Director. First, we're joined by Anne-Lee Lynn Clark, Financial Capability and Learning Director at Prepare and Prosper, Lauren Leinbach, Executive Director at Community Financial Resources, and Matthew Parks, Director and CRA Officer at Discover Bank. As they share their experiences, I hope you'll come away with some practical advice and be inspired by their passion and sense of purpose. Please feel free to submit your questions at any time by typing it in at the GoToWebinar control panel. We'll have some time for Q&A at the end of the session. For those of you who are not familiar with CFSI, we are a national nonprofit whose mission is to improve the financial health of Americans. We do this by informing the industry, seeding innovation, and leading a network of financial service providers who are committed to improving financial outcomes for their customers. Much of our work focuses on helping institutions design and deploy high-quality products and programs through our consulting services. We work with organizations ranging from the largest retail banks to innovative nonprofits to small and large fintech companies. To get us started, let's find out where you all are in exploring this topic with a quick poll. The question is, are you currently participating in any non-traditional distribution initiatives? So as you'll see in the webinar, you should have a chance to respond. Okay, great. So we're starting to see that we got some people who are already doing something, and then actually the majority are totally new to the subject. So great. We hope this session will be informative, and more to come on it. So okay. So why do we need non-traditional distribution channels? After all, there's no shortage of traditional ones. There's over 7,000 banks with close to 80,000 branches and almost 6,000 credit unions, plus a proliferation of online banks with 24/7 availability. However, there is ample evidence that financial needs are not being fully met by traditional institutions. The vast majority of individuals do, in fact, have a banking relationship. The most recent FDIC survey of un- and underbanked individuals indicates that only 7% of households do not, and that percentage has been consistently declining. Yet, another 20% are underbanked, meaning that they obtain one or more services from alternative financial service providers. Among young adults, these numbers are even higher, with about a third of millennials and over 40% of today's college-age students being un- or underbanked. And the challenges go beyond simple access for financial services. Data about Americans' financial challenges are sobering. 27% have less than $1,000 saved for retirement. 30% can only make ends meet for 3 months or less if they experience a drop in income. 43% are struggling to pay their bills and credit payments. And 45% lack the credit score required to qualify for traditional lending products. This raises the question, how do we meet these struggling Americans where they are? Today, we're going to discuss 3 non-traditional channels. Let's start with the workplace. Given the breadth of these problems, it is not surprising that U.S. workers are struggling. Studies show that roughly half the workforce is financially stressed, and that 75% sometimes live paycheck to paycheck. 1 in 3 employees report that personal financial issues has been a distraction at work, and employees with high financial stress are twice as likely to take sick time when not really sick. It has been estimated that financial stress costs approximately $7,000 per employee per year in lost productivity. Employees would like their employers to help. In PwC's latest employee financial wellness survey, 25% of employees expressed interest in financial wellness programs with access to unbiased counselors, more than any other new benefit in the survey. We're seeing that employers are responding because they see the potential for both financial and non-financial benefits. According to recent surveys of employee benefits managers, 59% are focusing on financial wellness beyond just retirement planning, and 72% have either already executed or are in the process of developing a financial well-being strategy. Higher education. Colleges and higher ed students are also affected by the financial health crisis. Here are some of the numbers. 51% of college students are financially independent, 41% are over age 25, over a quarter have children, and 38% attend school part-time. The majority work, and a whopping 45% of part-time students work more than 35 hours a week, practically a full-time job. So students are pressed for time and for money. 70% feel stressed about their personal finances, 60% worry about not having enough money to pay for school, and 50% are worried about paying their monthly expenses. This stress negatively impacts academic performance. 54% of full-time students and 63% of part-time students report that financial stress has had at least some impact on their academic performance. 30% say they have reduced their class load because of money they owed, and 56% of students who dropped out said a major reason was the need to work to make ends meet. Academic institutions are recognizing that helping to alleviate their students' financial stress is one way to improve performance. The last organization I want to touch on are community and nonprofit organizations broadly. The mission of these organizations is to increase opportunity and resilience in low and moderate income communities through a variety of services. And these are the communities with the greatest unmet financial needs. We know that 50% of households with income under $15,000 and 35% of households with income between $15,000 and $30,000 are either un or underbanked. And households with incomes under $30,000 are about a third more likely to be financially unhealthy than the U.S. population overall. Many Americans already have relationships with employers, schools, and community organizations, which makes these kinds of institutions well positioned to address people's financial needs not being met by traditional channels. Employers affect workers' financial health in a number of ways, through the wages they pay, work scheduling, and payroll policies. Through employee benefits offerings, employers have long selected retirement investments, health insurance, and life insurance products on their employees' behalf. Many large employers also maintain bank-at-work programs, offering discounted access to day-to-day banking products from a selected partner. Colleges are deeply involved in their students' finances, most obviously as a disperser of student loans and other financial aid, which for some students is their primary source of support. They play other important roles as well, frequently as students' landlords, employers, and career counselors. And lastly, community organizations are also well positioned to address the needs of low and moderate income communities, as they already play a variety of roles in their lives. Some provide job training, housing-related services, and educational support. Some already offer services to build financial capabilities such as financial education or coaching. As you can see, it's not a huge leap for these institutions to either begin or continue offering financial services. Now let's do another quick poll and see what benefits your organizations are hoping to realize from non-traditional distribution channels. Interesting. The overwhelming majority are interested in reducing my constituents' financial stress. Okay, well, maybe that's something we can touch on as we go through in our discussion with the panelists. Great. Okay, well, we think there's a number of benefits that can benefit consumers as well as distributors and financial service providers. The first is convenience, which cannot be overstated. Inconvenient locations and hours are each cited by 9% of unbanked individuals as a reason for not having a bank relationship. But even banked individuals who are under financial stress are busy, juggling long working and school hours with personal responsibilities. Trust is another factor. 28% of unbanked individuals cite lack of trust in traditional financial institutions as a reason. And even banked individuals are skeptical. In a recent Ernst & Young study, only 40% of respondents said they completely trust their primary financial services provider. Endorsement by a trusted third party can help alleviate that. And by providing solutions and providing a limited menu of offerings, these non-traditional channels can also simplify the selection decision for end users. And lastly, working with product partners, these distributors can potentially negotiate superior pricing, providing better value to end users. Product providers can benefit as well. The most obvious benefit is incremental volume, reaching an audience that might not be readily reached through existing channels. Large employers and universities can provide access to tens of thousands of potential customers, and even a typical community college can provide access to over 4,000 students. This ready access generally lowers acquisition costs, with average costs estimated about $200 per new retail banking customer, These savings represent a strong profit opportunity, even if some of those savings are passed back to the customer. And there's growing evidence that products sold to these distribution channels perform well. A recent study of employer-sponsored credit-related fintech solutions found that default rates were 20% less than predicted based on borrower credit scores. This was attributed to the salary link, the ability of the provider to access an employee's salary directly to ensure repayment. Various community organizations report similarly strong repayment experience, even without the salary link, which they attribute to the social bonds associated with an affinity group. This is not to say that it is always simple or easy to implement these programs. Operational and compliance issues, especially related to remote account opening and servicing, must be addressed. But as our participants today can attest, these challenges are often not as difficult to overcome as one might think. And now let's hear about what the organizations represented by our panelists are doing in the space. Let's start with you, Anne. Can you tell us a little about Prepare and Prosper and your FAIR initiatives?
Sure. Thank you, Mark. And thank you to CFSI and all those who are tuned in today. Just a bit about Prepare and Prosper and who we are. We're a nonprofit. We're based in the Twin Cities in Minnesota with nearly 50 years of experience building financial. Each year we do this with the bench strength of our 500 volunteers, and we reach about 13,000 people each year through direct services of free tax preparation through VITA, financial services and products, and savings promotion at tax time, and financial coaching. All of what we do is volunteer-based, but we also work on a systems level at Prepare and Prosper to advocate with and behalf of our customers on policies and systems, particularly in the consumer financial marketplace. In this spirit, and why I'm here today is at Prepare and Prosper, we lead the Financial Access and Reach initiative, which is FAIR, which essentially aims to bridge the market gap between those consumers that Mark just described operating wholly or partly outside the financial mainstream and those wealth building, stabilizing opportunities within. So we had a brain trust of a cross-section of leaders, including Lauren, who you're going to hear from next, and we built FAIR, which is a partnership, as you see here on the screen, between a nonprofit, a human-centered design firm, and Sunrise Banks, which is located next door to us in St. Paul, but they have their nationally chartered CDFI that's also a B Corp. So we have mission alignment there. Next slide, please. Okay, what is FAIR? So when the FAIR, we have a financial solution. It's beyond just products, which I will describe, but it is a bundled set or a hybrid integrated set of products. We listen to 150 consumers, formally and informally on the ground through our experience, and we built a set with Sunrise and with CFSI, a set of financial products to align with those stated wants and needs of the financially underserved folks that we were seeing in our community. So we've got a checking account, a savings account, and a credit builder loan. And these three products are called the FAIR Financial Solution. Consumers can get them a la carte, one, two, or all three of them. And it is co-branded and digitally offered for online and mobile banking. The idea is we're building sort of the digital branchless banking model for the financially underserved. What sets us apart is that it's just not a set of products, but we bring the financial coaching at the moment of onboarding and switching to the accounts, as well as ongoing use to use these accounts to meet financial goals. Next slide, please. So now I've told you about the products. I'm going to tell you a bit about our distribution model. Mark covered this well in the intro, but as we know, there are many reasons people sometimes choose and sometimes are forced to be disconnected from mainstream banking, ranging from financial deserts to trust to fee sensitivity. Therefore, why we're here today is FAIR is taking the products in the community where people live, work, receive services, play, etc. At those money moments described earlier and those life transitions, we're getting new financial accounts makes no sense. So the FDIC data we've been referring to, in that data we know and we learn on the ground, we hear it every day, that people walk away from bank accounts, for example, when they lose a job. They want accounts when they get a job. They need to build credit when they plan to buy a home or start a small business. We know people have a cushion at tax time. So we're building the distribution model of FAIR around these moments. Think unemployment offices, workforce and job training programs, apprenticeship programs, etc. Next slide, please. And like all journeys, we've been on one. And so in terms of the fair timeline and benchmarks, where we've been and where we're going, we actually tested this in the community thanks to work that CFSI helped us do and actually helped build the product concept. We tested this in 2017 with about 53 consumers and 104 products with a different bank. And then we settled and we partnered with a new bank, and we are in pilot. We are actively in pilot right now with Sunrise Banks and testing this out with trying to reach 100. We already have 40 by the end of this year, and then we want to go statewide and then national scale. So we're on a journey. We're partnering with a bank. We're in it, and so I'm excited to share insights, lessons learned later on in our conversation. Back to you, Mark.
That's great, Ann. Thank you so much. Lauren, you've taken a little bit of a different approach at Community Financial Resources. Can you share a little bit about the work that you do?
Certainly. And if we could move the slide, that'd be great. Community Financial Resources is happy to say that Prepare and Prosper is one of our partners. And CFR's dream is to help many organizations across the nation offer low-cost, high-functionality, and safe-to-use financial products and money management tools to their low-income and low-wealth constituents, like Prepare and Prosper is doing with the FAIR product suite. CFR's mission is to create a fair, inclusive, and sustainable economy. We do this by making sure that people have the tools they need to develop their financial survival skills, and that they are provided a roadmap or a structured approach to effectively use these tools. We work through an extensive national network of partnerships. On the supply side, we work with socially responsible banks, credit unions, and other financial service providers. On the distribution side, we work through a vast array of organizations to connect with their constituents. That includes educational institutions, employers, labor organizers, community-based organizations, public and private social service agencies, and even healthcare providers, particularly public health programs. We know that it is important to go to the people where they are already working, learning, living, and interacting with organizations they trust. That is why non-traditional distribution channels are so important. Though each channel has its own strengths and challenges, it is possible to successfully integrate financial product offers into most programming. Next slide. CFR uses the power of the marketplace to create social good. We source and vet or research and develop high functionality, low cost consumer financial management products and tools. We look for opportunities to leverage supplier vertical integration to provide the lowest cost products possible. A good example of this approach is our role in Prepare and Prosper's initiative. We help them negotiate with the various vendors involved in the process of sharing information. So across our work, we make sure that financial products and tools are well designed for low income and low wealth households that have to cope with variable income and the fact that it is expensive to be poor in America. We invest time in understanding the lived experience of our customers and the trauma of poverty. Product design is key to creating a sense of personal efficacy and reducing cognitive load. We work with our partners to integrate financial capability programming into what is already happening at their locations, be it education, workforce development, employment, housing, or legal services. We think it's also important to collect data, document our impact, and demonstrate best practices. Next slide, please. Here's our current toolkit over here on the left, and our initiatives that connect people to these consumer-friendly financial products. We work with different audiences and we know they have different needs. But the common theme is using financial products and tools so that people can learn by doing and build financial capability. As we do this work, we see trends and structural issues that exacerbate poverty and inequality, and that's why we also actively participate in coalitions that hold up best practices and support advocacy and policy work for economic justice. And that's CFR.
Sorry, great. Sorry, I was on mute there. Matt, maybe we could swing it over to you. Tell us, maybe I know you're developing a pilot in which employers would make small dollar loans to employees. Tell us a little bit more about how you came to see that as a need and an opportunity.
Sure, Mark, I'd be happy to do that. I'm sure most of you may be on the phone, maybe you've been to a Merge conference or maybe you haven't, but I highly recommend that you attend in 2019. That's certainly a plug. It's a great event year after year. And, you know, myself, I've learned a lot about financial health and so forth out in the marketplace. But while attending CFSI's Emerge conference in 2017, I actually attended a session that talked about employers and what they were doing to assist their employees with their financial health. And I heard that many mainstream employers were starting to provide some sort of financial literacy or coaching activities, but this was the first time, you know, as my role as a CRA director, that I attended a conference and that basically, you know, a large publicly traded company was actually working on a loan product or actually providing a loan product to their employees. You know, I've attended many conferences and community events, and they've always spoke about the need of, you know, adults needing more access to financial literacy as a means to help low and moderate income people to manage their affairs. But again, this was the first time that I've actually, you know, come across a large, you know, well-known employer creating such a program. And these loans were mainly focused, you know, on their hourly employees, or more likely of low and moderate income, you know, and those with limited access to credit for, you know, a variety of reasons, you know, making it a perfect fit for a Community Reinvestment Act initiative. Now, all these employers providing these various forms of financial assistance for emergencies such as funerals and illnesses, but never an actual loan, you know, that, you know, employers provided that needed to be repaid. You know, banks like ourselves have continually provided funding, you know, for our employees, as well as providing our employees with discounts for loan and bank accounts. But typically, only those employees with acceptable credit, you know, usually apply for these. You know, maybe they consider fear of embarrassment, that their applications are going to be reviewed and considered by their employer, in certain cases by their colleagues or peers. You know, with many hourly employees at my bank, I want to see if I could potentially pilot an employer loan program utilizing our CRA funding to learn more about the benefits and potential pitfalls. You know, this may seem like exaggerated analogy, but to me, you know, continuing to sink millions of dollars into financial literacy alone, you know, and pushing financial literacy without access to products and services, sort of like, you know, someone's drowning in the ocean. You go there, you give them a life vest, you give them some water, you give them some general tools, but at the end of the day, you don't actually pick them up, right? So continuing with financial literacy without, you know, products and services to go along with it, you know, again, is, you know, not necessarily helping the employer or low and moderate income individual. So in order to determine, you know, to create a proxy, you know, to sort of understand demand for product for my financial institution, I actually took reports of 401k loans for hourly employees. And what I learned that there's a specific percentage of employees, not only at my bank institution where we provide, you know, 401k match and the like, but a lot of employees are the same. And a lot of these loans are for amounts that are, you know, for less than $1,500. So a vehicle that we set up as employers for our employees are not being used for, you know, their intended purpose, you know, for retirement, but they're being used for the purposes of short-term, you know, credit to meet immediate needs. So there's clearly a need for credit amongst low and moderate income folks, you know, to go along with financial literacy and the tools to help with cash flow management. So we've all heard about U.S. Treasury study that most Americans do not have $400 saved, and the FBI studies about the millions of Americans that do not maintain adequate access to traditional credit and bank accounts. But we're seeking a partner who wants to help eventually solve these problems, and that includes a lack of availability of credit and the creation of emergency savings. We've discussed the product and program to do all three things. One, provide funding via loan for the immediate need. Two, to help create savings while paying back the funds for the immediate need. And then 3, to provide the tools to help the consumer improve and maintain their credit and their cash flow through the financial literacy and budgeting and management of their household accounts. So with that, Mark, I'll turn it back to you.
Great, thank you, Matt. That was great, very helpful. I wanted to touch on, you alluded to the next topic that I want to focus on. All of you are relying on product partners to make this happen. What did you look for in a partner? How did you find the right ones? How did you think through this process? And maybe Matt, since you just started talking about this, maybe you could touch on this.
Yeah, we're looking for a financial technology partner that can see, the big picture of what we're trying to do here, and not just to make a loan product, right? Not to provide a loan to somebody, but to really create and find a solution. So what we did is, we turned to you guys at CFSI to healthily dig into, the various financial technology partners that are out there and identify the ones that are, again, more likely to create a pilot program to provide a program versus just another employer loan or a payday advance type product.
Great. And you've had some ups and downs with product partners in your program. Can you share what you looked for in a partner and how you went about it?
Sure, I would be happy to. I'm going to echo what Matt said. We also partnered with CFSI Consulting, so you helped. I'm going to say that. Give credit to CFSI for helping with us, helping us find a partner. But we've been partnering. I want to set a little context. We actually, in our direct services, in our tax clinics, and our financial coaching program, we've been partnering for years with local banks, local credit unions, and even some big banks along the way. So we have had experience going out and negotiating partnerships to offer products within our tax clinics, within our financial coaching program. But when we took on this initiative to go outside of our own programs into the Twin Cities and eventually national, we worked with the CFSI Consulting Services team that helped us in our search for financial services. And with your guidance, with CFSI's guidance, we developed a really robust RFP process. And in that, we had some really top-line criteria, some of which were demonstrated commitment to serving this community, to serving low-income, financially underserved, communities of color. Experience was preferred, but just a commitment and a willingness was definitely helpful. It's definitely experience and an appetite for partnering with third-party or nonprofit distributors. This ability to co-brand and offer this remote account opening was priority. Offer, obviously, the product fees and feature set and the must-haves that we identified in our consumer listening. We really wanted somebody with a strong digital platform, online and mobile banking, or financial management tools that were already strong. And then, of course, like in any partnership, a strong culture of learning and ability to provide data tracking and reporting to see the financial health metrics along the way and see our success and where we need to make tweaks and pivot. And then a clear business case. This is not all altruism. This needs to work on both ends. So there needed to be a clear business case beyond CRA. I was really pleased to see only 5%. Like, this is about reducing financial stress to partner. And so we wanted FAIR to be sustainable, eventually revenue generating along the way.
Great, thank you, Ann. Lauren, your program is a bit different, right? Because you sit in the middle, partnering with both product providers and distribution channels. Does your process and criteria for selecting these types of partners differ?
Well, I wouldn't say that it differs, but it is a little broader. When we're looking at choosing product partners, our starting point is obviously looking at the product. We're looking for a low-cost product with the right functionality and design for financially vulnerable households. And the vendor may be close, but not quite there. And so their willingness to work with us to tweak the product and to change some of its components to make it work better for our constituency is always helpful. Then we assess vendor social responsibility, because the community trust factor is so key. And finally, we have to assess vendor sustainability, so we don't spend a lot of time investing in a solution that may disappear in a year or two. And that is kind of a problem in the fintech sector. Some of the factors we look for selecting a distribution partner are, we look for organizations that have a captive audience, to be honest. like a workplace training, an education program, or VITA, to get an audience where we can integrate a product offering into something people are already doing. And we also look to see if the organization has scale, or does the programming provide an interesting research environment. And we also want the partner to value the learn by doing concept. So CFR knows that part of our job is partner capacity building. So we look for organizations that have execution skills we can build on. We want to make sure this is a positive experience for our distribution partner, and as Ann noted, it's got to be a win-win for the supplier business partner too.
Good, makes sense. Lauren, staying on the same topic, what are some things you need to tell potential partners to get them interested in the concept? What kind of proof points should organizations be prepared to share?
The factors that make working with CFR appealing to organizations include things like we vet the products to make sure they work well for our mutual constituency. And we assist with program integration. We really sit down with our partner organizations and make recommendations that are evidence-based. And we share best practices from across our partnerships. And we provide in-depth staff training, which not only provides professional development opportunities, but also organization capacity building. And we provide extensive customer support materials. So the organization, our distribution partner, doesn't have to develop these things themselves. They're all templated up for them. And finally, we make sure that a good evaluation structure is set up, and we provide the data collection tools. So the partner needs to demonstrate that they know their clients and that their clients value the engagement with the organization. From a learning perspective, we want to see a cultural commitment to program fidelity and that the organization is serious about executing.
Great, thank you, Lauren. You touched on sort of lessons learned, so that moves us to our next topic. So let's talk a little bit about challenges and lessons learned from this experience. What were some of the challenges you all faced? Operational barriers, generating end user interest, et cetera. How did you overcome them? Let's go to Ann first.
All right. Well, I would say, it's the beauty in this distribution model is generating end user interest is the easy part, because there's the trust. Like, we hold the trust for people to come to us every year and get their taxes done. We hold the trust for people to come back with financial coaching. Now, when it comes to sort of a partnership between a bank and a nonprofit, we've had to learn a lot. We've had to get real intimate with all those really fun, geeky banking regulations. As you saw, we're offering a credit building loan, so we know fair lending, upside and down, UDAP, the know your customer process. We have to work really closely with the compliance and marketing and messaging group, because this is a true partnership and co-branded partnership, to stay within the boundaries of these regulations and develop training for other third parties to stay within the boundaries of these regulations. So that's an operational sort of challenge along the way, but I think we've conquered it now. Data and information security between these partnerships are really important. And as Lauren touched on, data for evaluation and learning is really important. So in our sort of remote third-party model of product distribution, we really had to work through how we would everything from obtain, transmit, to share and retaining NPPI data in order to limit liability and risk of data breaches, but also track data on the program. So we had to work through that. That was a challenge that we conquered, but we're still always going to be learning along the way. And I think another challenge in setting up our partnership and negotiating is we had to really figure out this startup and ongoing costs. Like, how do you divide the cost of building out a program and supporting and maintaining the FAIR program? I think that was a big one. And teaming is huge as a lesson learned. Partnerships between banks and mid-sized nonprofit, we're strange bedfellows. We're very different organizational operational structures. So we both have areas where we're more nimble and iterative and areas where bureaucracy can really jam things up. So we've really had to learn to navigate that as a lesson learned. I think a big example is, we have funders and grant fundings and funding timelines, and that dictates our spending and our budgeting process. And so that's where bureaucracy can plug us up. We can be far more nimble in the customer acquisition, in the messaging, but we also have to maintain and stay within UDAP and regulation. So we've really just had to navigate some of these challenges in setting up the partnership between a bank and a nonprofit.
Great, thank you, Anne. Lauren, what about some of the challenges that you faced?
Well, on the distribution side, surprisingly enough, there is a tendency for nonprofits to be afraid of selling product, even when they're selling social good. And what we have to work with the organization on is showing that their constituents will be better off if they connect them with a financial product or tool that has been vetted. And our partners quickly do find out that clients are more than happy to get a product recommendation from a trusted source. On the supplier side, you have to be flexible but demand good performance. And I'll just mention, we are on our third platform in offering a prepaid debit card, and that's because we needed the product to evolve, and when we needed to move on, we moved on. But we're very happy with the partnership that we have now.
Great, thank you, Lauren. Matt, if you could share some key lessons learned with listeners who are planning similar initiatives, what would it be?
I think you've heard enough of it on the call today. I think a common theme is, focus on the end consumer products and services, sometime unintended consequence, where you may be thinking at the end of the day you're helping somebody, but by providing them, say, more access to credit or credit for the wrong thing, actually could end up making problems worse. So I think you heard a lot today from my partners here on the call about how they're, again, it's not necessarily just focused on the product, but it's also focused on the consumer and how you can make these products effective for them and not end up hurting them in the long run.
Yeah, what about you, Lauren? What would you say?
Well, what I would say to partner organizations is don't be afraid to get help. I think Anne did a good job talking about all the different considerations that go into this type of program, and get help from an organization that's gone through it, like the CFR model. It takes a particular skill set to develop this type of program, and product vetting, vendor management, consumer collateral, program integration takes time, and you have to be willing to invest in that process.
And what about you? What are some lessons learned from your side?
Yeah, I spoke to the nuts and bolts of regulation and compliance and marketing. You got to figure data security and sharing. That was all in this very large, robust legal agreement that we drafted across the bank and the nonprofit, and us at the nonprofit. In terms of the higher level lessons, for those either on this call who are in the who are fintech or are in the financial services industry looking to partner with third-party distributors like a nonprofit, for example, or for those nonprofits who potentially are listening in search of a banking partner, I would say a big thing we've learned is you need buy-in. I mean, we've had a couple partnerships now, several partnerships, if you count what we've been doing in our tax clinics since 2006. You need buy-in at all levels. And I'm talking from the very top, that executive director in our case, to the C-suite in the bank. And you need it also from compliance and risk to those actually on the ground servicing the customers. So in architecting this partnership, we've touched nearly every department in the bank, from third-party risk to audit to digital operations, et cetera. So it's really it needs, related to that, the initiative needs to not just be, I sort of mentioned this earlier, simply for the side project for CRA credit. It can't, with all this investment, I mean, funders, we have funders investing in us as well, national foundations. This can't just be for CRA credit. It needs to provide value. And so it needs to be in both strategic growth plans of both partners, the third-party distributor, us, and the bank. So I think that was something that's really a lesson learned along the way, is that it has to provide value, both mission and financial, to both partners, to all partners, I should say. So I really also think a lesson I've learned along the way as a person who's negotiated with many a bank is the third parties, these nonprofits, need to remain open and flexible in negotiating pricing, shared costs, time horizons up front. Not everything can be free to be sustainable. So we did listening, and we landed on $3 a month, and that got vetted, and that was A-okay with the customers. It was actually less than some of the what people were willing to pay. So those, in summary, the partnerships that are most successful are those that understand the value to the distributor partner, what they deliver in customer acquisition, lead generation, but also in the value, like a financial value that this needs to have to be sustainable. And the last thing I'll share is have experts. I was very lucky to have a Lauren who's on the call today, whether it be consultants or board members that can sort of code switch between a nonprofit language and a bank. We're lucky to have had intermediaries that can play this role. They act as that intermediary between the head and the heart of the hard work and partnering.
Thank you. But before we go on, I wanted to just address. We're getting a lot of questions about sharing the materials from this presentation. We will be sharing this webinar is being recorded, and we will be sharing the materials over the next couple of days. So I know there's a lot of good information being shared, so don't worry, it'll be distributed. Okay, so I did want to kind of stay on this topic, right? So Ann and Matt, you both engaged CFSI to help design your programs. Can you discuss why you felt you needed assistance and the role we played? Matt, maybe let's start with you.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the people at CFSI are extremely knowledgeable about the landscape and what is being offered out in the marketplace. You know, they have the people I worked have great relationships. They, were easy to talk to. They could easily identify partners. It made it easy for some initial conversations. And quite frankly, we let CFSI take the lead, as we searched, the marketplace. And I think that helped open the doors for us. I think a bank, if we were just to look on a partner, look for a partner on our own, I think it could be problematic. I think a lot of, companies may be, just looking to maybe make a deal. But I think having the relationship with CFSI gave us, sort of a trust factor to have, open conversations with these. I remember a lot of the fintechs were, saying, hey, we want to have an NDA, we want to have an NDA, but with CFSI there saying, hey, look, we're just looking for information. We don't want any of your corporate secrets. We just want to have a conversation about products that can help people. I just think it made it extremely easy to gather information and be able to hopefully design a product that will add great value.
Yeah. Ann, maybe go over to you.
Yeah, I'm going to echo Matt. I mean, honestly, a bank or financial services provider that's part of a CFSI network is already demonstrating interest in reaching our customer base. And so it's obvious. CFSI was, an obvious choice. And you all at CFSI have been with us from the very beginning. I mean, you were there participating in the initial sort of design team that dreamed FAIR up. So we also formerly worked with you guys over the course of 6 months. After we sort of had this dream design phase in 2014, 2015, we hired you to CFSI to scan the local and national markets to identify products, product delivery models, and partners that aligned with the FAIR vision at the time. And so it took us hiring CFSI to really hone our product concept, and conducted interviews to assess willingness and feasibility of our concept and our delivery model with potential financial services partners that were in your network. And so you helped us vet the concept with a small group. You also helped us vet the concept with financially underserved consumers. So you did some listening with us, which is really helpful. So essentially, in essence, CFSI really helped the FAIR team convert what was like high-level dream product and distribution vision into a really concrete product concept. So we finalized product specifications, and we could select a financial services partner and helped us get to where we are today.
Great, thank you, Ann. So just kind of moving on to our next topic. So at CFSI, we welcome the opportunity to partner with organizations that want to put these ideas into practice. We have a lot of experience in research and can help you gain a deeper understanding of the complexity of your customer needs. We can leverage our consumer and industry experience to help you design high-quality, differentiated products and programs. We have a vast network. We can help you connect you to partners, as some of our participants have commented on. And then, as a pioneer in financial health measurement, we can help set goals and develop mechanisms to track your customer success and its impact on your business. And actually, it's a question I want to touch on a little bit later. So we're going to open up the questions now from the audience. If you haven't already, please go ahead and type your questions into the chat. We're actually getting a lot of great questions. And if for some reason we're not able to get to all of them, we will be following up after the session. So I actually wanted to kind of go on that last point about financial health measurement. I wanted to get a response from each one of you, how you're thinking about financial health measurement, maybe some metrics that you're using to do that measurement. Maybe Anne, since you kind of recently touched on it, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, I mean, we're lucky that Sunrise Banks happens to be a financial health partner, so that's great. We're set up for success there with CFSI. And so we also have a team of evaluators, and during our engagement, or like consulting engagement with CFSI, with you all, you brought us a whole host of metrics, of KPIs, key product indicators, that we included in our initial RFP. So we even included it when we were looking for a bank partner, because we were looking for the capacity to track it. So some examples are, I mean, it's obvious, the obvious examples and the basics are, number of accounts opened, and then the conversion rate, those who are funding, making the initial funding, direct deposit, savings balances over time, credit scores over time. But we're even tracking customer service calls. Like what are reasons that people are calling customer service line, and what can we learn from that to tweak our onboarding and to tweak how we're educating our onboarding and our post-enrollment, like after people are onboarded, the coaching. And so we're tracking some high level metrics, but also sort of the nitty gritty to improve what we're offering at the onboarding and the coaching experience.
Great. Maybe Matt, maybe you can touch on that from your organization's perspective.
Yeah, I mean, we're still sort of designing what that may look like, and we're working with CFSI. I mean, some of the things, all the things that, were just mentioned, but maybe some other things on the employer side, such as, turnover or employer performance, or, the different surveys they took on employee benefits. Is this a benefit that people want and desire? So we're also looking at the employer and potential employee savings. Is there a way that we could come up with maybe a savings, so an employer will be more apt to maybe, if needed, hopefully it's not needed, but maybe even to subsidize a program if in fact that the numbers don't work. But we're looking at a lot of things from the employer side, because when we started talking with CFSI, and we first started with a bunch of employers that have a desire to do that. So going hand in hand with loans that may be distributed and results employers may be able to see. We're sort of looking at that correlation and benefit.
And lastly, Lauren, what about from your organization's perspective? What do you think about measuring? How do you guys approach measuring financial health?
Yeah, we have a set of measurement tools that we make available to our partners. We do some longitudinal surveys that measure confidence and competency, and specifically focusing in on reported behaviors. And of course, if our partners use products that we sponsor, we have product usage data that we dig into and analyze with them. And then we also emphasize what we call behavior tracking. A lot of these programs are providing some financial literacy or financial education, but we're actually trying to get people to go out and apply the information with concrete activities. And we have tools to track those activities and report them back to financial coaches or the organization. So, it's the survey information, the product usage information, and the behavior tracking provide really rich data to analyze the impact.
Great, thank you, Lauren. Okay, next question from the audience. So both Ann and Lauren discussed high-quality, low-cost accounts that are well-designed. How do distribution partners think about quality? And then we specifically had a question about how does this work with Bank On? Maybe Lauren, why don't you start with this one?
Well, quality is from the customer experience point of view in our minds. We always ask the question, would you use the product yourself? And would it produce a positive customer experience? And for our constituents that are low income, low wealth, variable income, we want to avoid traps that can cause extra expenses, minimum balance requirements, for example, monthly fees that are too high, and penalty fees. So that's what we're thinking about. We're thinking about what is the customer experience. And we work quite closely with Bank On, and we actually advise on the standards. And we think that Bank On has the right idea, though I do have to say that some of the fees allowable with Bank On products for our constituents, I think would be a little high.
And I guess same question to you.
Yeah, I mean, I want to echo Lauren about, the quality, really when it's about quality, it's beyond just the fees and features, and it's about the user experience, the customer experience. So for us, and it's also access, like customer service, what are the hours? Can I check my balance 24 hours a day? Can I transfer money 24 hours a day? That's why sort of the digital, the online and mobile banking experience is really important. How easy is it to access my money? What does the ATM network look like? So that's, it's beyond just the product specifications and features. It's the customer service experience and the access, but the customer service experience both digitally and in person, or over the phone, I should say. So Bank On as well, we partner with them. We actually recently had a call, and we were built similar, inspired by Bank On. We had a leadership team initially that helped build out FAIR that very much looked like a Bank On coalition. And Bank On is usually transactional products. We do it a little bit differently by having that checking, savings, and credit building product. But it's good timing to ask. We're actually going through the credentialing of with Sunrise Banks for the FAIR program of the National Bank On standards right now.
Great. Okay. Well, we've had a couple questions about impact and how to measure impact. I'm wondering if each of the panelists can think about and respond to how they think about measuring the impact. And some of this is maybe touched on, obviously, from a financial health perspective, but how would you go about measuring the impact of this program and seeing how effective it's been? Matt, maybe we can start with you if that's okay.
Okay, when we're looking at the employers, and I touched on it a little bit before, to impact to us is helping the employer at the end of the day. Does this benefit provided to the employee, provide the company or the employer, a better relationship with this employee, right? At the end of the day, do employees stay at the company longer? Do they perform better? This is all about seeing whether this product will improve the consumer's financial health, and come back to the employer as a benefit to them as well as a benefit to the employee.
Anne, why don't we go with you next?
Sure. Honestly, I think it's recapturing, a big measurement piece of impact beyond the KPIs, beyond the data that we're getting on the portfolio, the FAIR portfolio. We also we have evaluators on FAIR from the University of Minnesota Future Services Institute, and we're tracking what we're asking people. We're doing follow-up calls. We're doing some baseline data. Are we recapturing that leakage that was happening? But for example, overdraft fees. So FAIR has no overdraft. We, over the years, I mean, we see people that are stuck in cycles of overdraft. So what's happening with FAIR in their financial lives, that's recapturing the leakage that was happening with those high cost products, whether it be in the mainstream or non-bank space. I think that's a big thing to measure, is like what's changed in your life because you're not using those sort of high cost, high fee products. I think another thing is like impact of, you know, their journey to other products, their journey of FAIR, of building their credit and their cushion for savings in accessing wealth building products that they've just been dreaming of, whether it be a car loan, a credit card with competitive interest, a mortgage, et cetera. I think that is going to show real impact. And of course, because we have these evaluators, I think those confidence and stress and behavior change measures that we're measuring in our more qualitative evaluation is really going to be to show impact of how is this impacting people's lives. And I really think what we're going to see in measuring impact is if people are converting, not only getting these at Prepare and Prosper and other distributor locations, but they're converting to them, they're using them, they're building up in their savings, they're building up their balances, they're using their debit cards, but they're spreading these through word of mouth. I mean, is the more and more people that are coming to FAIR because we know in our direct services programs, word of mouth is how we get our 13,000 taxpayers. So I think impact is going to show in who is coming to this because of word of mouth.
Interesting. Okay, I guess we're just about at time, but Lauren, if you want to respond before we wrap up.
Well, I like to look at impact at what has happened in the field, poverty alleviation field. 15 years ago when CFR was founded, and by the way, CFSI was one of our first funders, there was no nonprofit out there offering consumer transaction products, banking products, and it was viewed with a little bit of suspicion. And the fact that we started with a rather new tool, the prepaid debit card. And over the years, the prepaid debit cards have really come to fruition in terms of being a good basic product. But also the idea that everyone is getting their heads around is that people need tools to apply financial capability concepts. And if you don't give them the tools, they're not really going to inculcate changes in their lives. So I think from an impact perspective is just looking at how the field has changed over 15 years to embrace the concept of using these non-traditional distribution channels.
Thank you, Lauren. And unfortunately, we are just about out of time. I do want to say that we've gotten a lot of questions that we weren't able to address here, but we will be doing our best to respond over the next couple of days. And as I said, we will also be sharing the presentation. So just a couple of things before we wrap up. I do want to mention that the first version of our U.S. Financial Health Pulse will be released just next week on November 1st. If you're not familiar with this is a groundbreaking survey. It's a regularly refreshed snapshot of the financial health of U.S. adults, including underserved consumers, to provide a unique view into Americans' financial habits. If you want to learn more, just go ahead and check out the web link located here. Also, I'd like to call attention to our upcoming annual Emerge conference. I know Matt gave a great shout out to that. It's open to both members and non-members of our network. We'll be hosting approximately about 800 industry leaders for a timely conversation on trust, tech, and transparency, something that we heard resonate certainly in this conversation. And the event is scheduled for the May 14th to the 16th next year in sunny Phoenix, Arizona. As you can see, we're offering a Black Friday discount from the 1st through November 26th. Prices will not get any lower, so please take advantage while you can. And finally, I would like to thank everyone for attending today. I hope you found the session informative and that it's given you some pointers to consider for your organizations. And lastly, feel free to reach out to any of us if you have any additional questions or you'd like to learn more about any of the programs discussed, or if you're interested in partnering with CFSI going forward. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.